In a galaxy far beyond our reach, where stars burn brighter and civilizations rise and fall like waves on an endless cosmic sea, the Zorathian Empire once stood as a beacon of prosperity. But now, its people face a nightmare they never imagined, a famine so devastating it threatens to erase their entire way of life. Crops wither, food supplies vanish, and hope fades with each passing day. The empire teeters on the edge of collapse, its once mighty rulers powerless against the hunger that gnaws at their people. And then, in the midst of this chaos, a single human is thrust into the heart of the crisis. Chef Marcus Hale, a culinary genius from Earth, finds himself far from home, abducted by accident and surrounded by towering alien guards. He doesn't speak their language. He doesn't understand their customs, but he does know one thing: food, and in a starving empire, that knowledge might just be the key to survival, not just for him, but for an entire civilization. This is the story of how one man's passion for cooking became the lifeline for a dying empire. It's a tale of ingenuity, courage, and the universal power of a good meal. From the chaotic kitchens of an alien palace to the treacherous wilderness of a dying planet, Marcus will face challenges no chef has ever imagined. He'll battle blighted crops, hostile forces, and the skepticism of an entire species. But through it all, he'll prove that even in the darkest of times, a single act of kindness or a single dish can change the fate of an empire. So, stay with us as we dive into this interstellar culinary showdown. By the end of this journey, you'll see how one man's love for food became the spark that reignited hope across the stars. And who knows, you might just find yourself inspired to look at your own kitchen in a whole new way. Let's begin. Now, let's step into the moment that changes everything for Marcus Hale. Marcus wakes up in a cold, dimly lit cell, his head pounding and his surroundings a blur of alien architecture. The walls shimmer with an otherworldly glow, and the air smells faintly of something metallic and unfamiliar. Towering above him are the Zorathian guards, their imposing figures casting long shadows across the room. Their armor gleams faintly, and their eyes, sharp and calculating, bore into him as they mutter to each other in a language he can't understand. But amidst the confusion, Marcus catches something. A word, a tone, a sense of urgency. The guards' whispers are laced with desperation, their voices low and strained. He hears fragments of their conversation, words like famine, starvation, and hope. It's enough to piece together the grim reality. The Zorathian Empire is starving, and their people are dying. Marcus's mind races. He's no soldier, no diplomat. He's a chef, but in this moment, he realizes that his culinary skills might be his only lifeline. If these aliens are desperate for food, then maybe, just maybe, he can use his knowledge to survive. Before he can fully process the thought, the guards grab him, their grip firm but not cruel. They drag him out of the cell and down a series of winding corridors, the walls lined with intricate carvings that tell stories of a once thriving empire. Marcus stumbles, his legs still unsteady, but the guards don't slow down. They're taking him somewhere important, somewhere he'll need to prove his worth. As they approach a massive set of doors, Marcus's heart pounds. Beyond those doors lies the Emperor, the ruler of a dying empire, and Marcus knows that whatever happens next will determine not just his fate, but the fate of an entire civilization. The doors creak open, revealing a grand chamber filled with towering figures and an air of desperation. Marcus takes a deep breath, steeling himself for what's to come. This is his moment, and he's ready to show them what a human chef can do. But as the guards shove him forward, one thought lingers in his mind. In a starving empire, a single meal could mean the difference between life and death. And Marcus Hale is about to serve up the most important dish of his life. As the heavy doors close behind him, Marcus finds himself standing in the center of the grand chamber, his eyes locked on the figure seated at the far end of the room. Emperor Zorath is a towering presence, even in his weakened state. His once imposing frame now seems gaunt, his sharp features softened by the toll of hunger. Yet his eyes, piercing and commanding, still hold the weight of an empire. The room falls silent as the emperor rises, his movements slow but deliberate. His voice, though strained, carries an undeniable authority. Human, he begins, his words echoing through the chamber. You claim to be a master of your craft. Prove it, prepare a meal from what little we have left. Show me that you are more than a prisoner. Marcus swallows hard, his mind racing. The challenge is clear. He must create something extraordinary from the barest of ingredients. The guards bring forward a tray of alien-produced strange, glowing fruits, fibrous roots, and spices that emit a faint, unfamiliar aroma. It's nothing like the ingredients he's used to, but Marcus knows he has no choice. With a deep breath, he begins. His hands move with practiced precision, slicing, grinding, and combining the alien elements. He tastes as he goes, his palate adjusting to the new flavors. The spices are sharp and earthy, the fruits tangy and sweet. He improvises, blending textures and flavors in ways he's never tried before. The room watches in tense silence as Marcus works, the only sounds the clink of utensils and the occasional murmur from the gathered Zorathians. Finally, he steps back, presenting his creation, a simple yet vibrant dish, its colors and aromas a stark contrast to the bleakness of the chamber. The emperor approaches, his expression unreadable. He takes a cautious bite, his eyes narrowing as he savors the flavors. For a moment, there's only silence, then, slowly, a flicker of something, relief, perhaps even hope, crosses his face. This, the emperor says, his voice softer now, is unlike anything we have tasted in years. You have earned my trust, human, but know this, the fate of my people rests on your shoulders. Do not fail us. Marcus nods, his heart pounding. He's passed the first test, but the real challenge lies ahead. In a starving empire, one meal is only the beginning. And Marcus Hale is ready to rise to the occasion. As the emperor returns to his throne, Marcus glances at the ingredients still scattered across the table. He knows this is just the start of a journey that will push him to his limits, but for now, he's taken the first step toward saving an empire, one dish at a time. With the emperor's trust tentatively secured, Marcus is led through the winding corridors of the palace to the heart of the Zorathian kitchens. The moment he steps inside, he's struck by the sheer chaos. The room is a labyrinth of alien technology, pulsating machines, glowing vats, and utensils that seem to move on their own. Towering shelves are crammed with bizarre ingredients, some of which defy description. Glowing orbs, spiked pods, and powders that shimmer like stardust. The air is thick with the mingling scents of sweet, sour, and something entirely unidentifiable. The Zorathian chefs, a group of towering figures with sharp, angular features, eye Marcus with a mix of curiosity and disdain. They've spent their lives mastering the intricacies of their cuisine and the idea of a human. An outsider taking charge is met with open skepticism. One of them, a chef named Corin, steps forward, his voice dripping with doubt. You think you can save us? You don't even know our ingredients, let alone our ways. Marcus doesn't flinch. Instead, he rolls up his sleeves and begins to explore. He picks up a spiked pod, turning it over in his hands, and sniffs a pinch of shimmering powder. Every ingredient has a story, he says, more to himself than anyone else. You just have to listen to it. As he works, Marcus begins to piece together the puzzle. The Zorathians' primary food source, a staple crop called the luminar root has been decimated by a mysterious blight. The once plentiful roots now grow stunted and bitter, their vibrant glow dimmed to a sickly gray. The chefs explain that every attempt to revive the crop has failed, leaving the empire teetering on the edge of starvation. Marcus's mind races. He's no botanist, but he knows food. He knows how flavors work, how textures complement each other, and how even the most unlikely ingredients can come together to create something extraordinary. There's always a solution, he mutters, his eyes scanning the chaotic kitchen. We just have to find it. Despite the chef's skepticism, Marcus begins experimenting. He combines the luminar root with other ingredients, testing their reactions, searching for a way to mask the bitterness or enhance what little flavor remains. The chefs watch in silence, their expressions shifting from doubt to reluctant curiosity. By the end of the day, Marcus has a plan. It's not perfect, but it's a start. He turns to Corin and the others, his voice steady. We're going to fix this together, but I need your help. You know these ingredients better than anyone. Teach me, and we'll find a way to save your people. The chefs exchange glances, their skepticism still present but softened by Marcus's determination. Slowly, Corin nods. Fine, he says, but don't think this means we trust you. Marcus smiles. He doesn't need their trust, not yet. What he needs is their knowledge, their expertise. And with that, he's one step closer to unraveling the mystery of the blight and finding a way to feed an empire on the brink of collapse. As the kitchen hums with renewed activity, Marcus feels a flicker of hope. The road ahead is uncertain, but for the first time since his abduction, he feels like he's exactly where he's meant to be. The challenge is immense, but Marcus Hale is ready to meet it, one ingredient at a time. As the days pass, Marcus dives deeper into the mysteries of Zorathian flora, his curiosity driving him to explore every corner of the palace gardens. Amid the towering alien plants and bioluminescent flowers, he stumbles upon something extraordinary, a small, unassuming plant with delicate, silver-veined leaves. Its scent is faint but familiar, a hint of earthiness that reminds him of herbs from Earth. Intrigued, Marcus plucks a leaf and tastes it. The flavor is subtle but promising, a blend of sweetness and spice that lingers on his tongue. He gathers more of the plant, carefully examining its structure and testing its compatibility with other ingredients. The Zorathian chefs watch from a distance, their skepticism still present but tempered by Marcus's relentless determination. Corin, the most vocal of the group, finally approaches. What do you think you found? He asks, his tone less hostile than before. Marcus looks up, a spark of excitement in his eyes. This, he says, holding up the plant, could be the key. It's not just edible, it's flavorful. And if we can grow more of it, we might have a chance to feed your people. With the chef's reluctant assistance, Marcus begins crafting a simple dish. He combines the silver-veined leaves with a few other ingredients from the kitchen, creating a broth that's light yet nourishing. The aroma fills the room, a tantalizing mix of warmth and freshness that even the Zorathians can't ignore. When the dish is ready, Marcus insists on sharing it with a group of starving citizens gathered outside the palace gates. The Zorathians, their faces gaunt and their eyes hollow, approach cautiously. Marcus serves them the broth, his hands steady despite the weight of their expectations. The first sip is met with silence, followed by a collective gasp. Tears stream down the faces of the citizens as they taste the dish, their expressions shifting from despair to disbelief. One of them, an elderly Zorathian with trembling hands, looks up at Marcus. This tastes like hope, she whispers. Word spreads quickly through the empire. The once silent streets begin to buzz with whispers of the human chef who created a meal that brought tears of gratitude.
For the first time in years, the people of Zorath feel a flicker of hope, a belief that perhaps, against all odds, they might survive. Marcus, standing amidst the grateful crowd, feels a surge of purpose. This is why he's here, not just to cook, but to heal, to inspire, to remind an entire civilization that even in the darkest times, there is always a way forward. As the sun sets over the palace, casting a golden glow over the gardens, Marcus turns to Corin and the other chefs. "This is just the beginning," he says. "We've found one solution, but there's more to discover. Together, we can rebuild what's been lost." The chefs nod, their skepticism giving way to something resembling respect. For the first time, they begin to see Marcus not as an outsider, but as a partner in their fight for survival. And as the Empire stirs with newfound hope, Marcus knows the real work is just beginning. With the rare plant as their foundation, Marcus and the Zorathian chefs set their sights on the next challenge, scaling their discovery to feed an entire empire. The road ahead is long, but for the first time it feels possible, and in the heart of the palace kitchens, amidst the chaos and the glow of alien technology, Marcus Hale continues to cook, one dish at a time, weaving hope into every bite. As whispers of Marcus's culinary breakthrough ripple through the empire, a shadow begins to form in the halls of power. The Zorathian High Council, a group of influential leaders who have long held sway over the empire's resources, watches Marcus's growing influence with unease. At the head of this council stands General Vrax, a towering figure whose ambition burns as fiercely as the blight that ravages their crops. To Vrax, Marcus is not a savior but a threat, a human outsider whose success undermines the council's authority and challenges their grip on the empire. In the dimly lit chambers of the council, Vrax paces, his voice sharp and commanding. "This human," he growls, "has no place here. He feeds the people scraps of hope, but what does he truly know of our struggles? If we allow him to continue, he will erode our control, and the empire will fall into chaos." The council members exchange uneasy glances, their loyalty to Vrax warring with the undeniable impact of Marcus's work. One of them, a younger counselor named Hale, speaks up cautiously, "But General, the people are starving. If Marcus can help them, shouldn't we at least consider?" Vrax cuts him off with a glare. "Consider what? Allowing an outsider to dictate our future? No, the Empire's survival depends on order, not on the whims of a human chef." Behind closed doors, Vrax begins to plot. He enlists a small group of loyal soldiers, instructing them to monitor Marcus's every move. Find a way to discredit him, Vrax orders. If he fails, the people will turn against him, and we can restore control. Meanwhile, Marcus remains unaware of the growing threat. He continues his work in the palace kitchens, experimenting with new recipes and teaching the Zorathian chefs how to cultivate the silver-veined plant. The once skeptical chefs, now inspired by Marcus's determination, work alongside him with newfound energy. Corin, in particular, has become an unexpected ally, his gruff demeanor softened by the hope Marcus has brought to the empire. But as Marcus's influence grows, so does the tension. Rumors of dissent reach his ears, whispers of a faction within the council that seeks to undermine him. Lyra, the Zorathian scientist who has been assisting Marcus, warns him to be cautious. "Not everyone sees you as a hero," she says. "There are those who fear what you represent change. And they will do whatever it takes to stop you." Marcus nods, his expression thoughtful. "I didn't come here to start a revolution," he says, "but if feeding the people means challenging those in power, then so be it. I won't let fear stand in the way of saving this empire." As the days pass, the conflict simmers beneath the surface. Vrax's soldiers begin to interfere with Marcus's efforts, sabotaging shipments of ingredients and spreading rumors of his incompetence. The people, torn between their gratitude for Marcus and their fear of the council, grow increasingly uneasy, yet amidst the growing tension, Marcus remains steadfast. He knows the road ahead will be fraught with challenges, but he also knows that the fate of the Zorathian Empire hangs in the balance. With Lyra and the chefs by his side, he prepares to face whatever comes next, determined to prove that even in the face of opposition, hope can prevail. As the Empire teeters on the edge of change, the stage is set for a clash that will test not only Marcus's resolve, but the very foundations of Zorathian society. And in the heart of the palace, amidst the glow of alien technology and the aroma of simmering broth, Marcus Hale continues to cook, one dish at a time, weaving hope into every bite even as the shadows of conflict gather around him. As the tension within the palace grows, Marcus and Lyra find themselves drawn closer together, united by a shared mission. With the blight continuing to spread and the Empire's food supply dwindling, they know they must act quickly. One evening, as the twin moons cast an eerie glow over the palace gardens, Lyra approaches Marcus with a determined look in her eyes. "We've analyzed the silver-veined plant," she says, her voice steady but urgent. "It's resistant to the blight, but we need more samples to understand how to cultivate it on a larger scale. The problem is, the only place it grows naturally is deep in the wilderness, a place no one has dared to go in years." Marcus doesn't hesitate. "Then that's where we'll go," he says firmly. "If this plant can save the Empire, it's worth the risk." Lyra nods, her respect for Marcus deepening. Together, they begin to prepare for the journey, gathering supplies and mapping out a route through the treacherous terrain. The wilderness beyond the palace walls is a place of legend, filled with dangers, both natural and alien predatory creatures, unstable ground, and toxic flora that could kill with a single touch. But Marcus and Lyra know they have no other choice. As they set out at dawn, the palace chefs and guards watch them go with a mix of admiration and fear. Corin, the gruff chef who has become one of Marcus's closest allies, claps him on the shoulder. "Don't get yourself killed out there," he mutters, his voice gruff but sincere. Marcus smiles, though the weight of the task ahead is heavy on his shoulders. "I'll do my best," he replies. The journey is grueling from the start. The wilderness is a stark contrast to the controlled environment of the palace, with its jagged cliffs, dense forests, and strange, glowing plants that seem to pulse with life. Marcus and Lyra move cautiously, their senses on high alert. Every rustle in the underbrush, every distant howl, sends a shiver down their spines, but they press on, driven by the knowledge that the fate of the Empire depends on their success. After days of travel, they finally reach the area where the silver-veined plant is said to grow. The landscape here is unlike anything Marcus has ever seen, a vast, shimmering field of plants that glow faintly in the dim light. But their relief is short-lived. As they begin to collect samples, a low growl echoes through the air. Marcus and Lyra freeze, their eyes scanning the shadows. Emerging from the darkness is a massive, six-legged creature, its eyes glowing with a predatory gleam. It's clear they've stumbled into its territory. Lyra grabs Marcus's arm, her voice a whisper. "We need to move now," but the creature is fast, lunging toward them with terrifying speed. Marcus and Lyra sprint through the field, their hearts pounding as they dodge the creature's snapping jaws. In a desperate move, Marcus grabs a glowing plant and hurls it at the creature, distracting it just long enough for them to escape into a nearby cave. They collapse against the cave wall, gasping for breath, their bodies trembling with adrenaline. As they catch their breath, Marcus looks at Lyra, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "Well, that was close," he says, trying to lighten the mood. Lyra shakes her head, but there's a glimmer of amusement in her eyes. "You're insane," she says, though her tone is affectionate. "But I'm glad you're here." With the samples safely in their possession, Marcus and Lyra begin the long journey back to the palace. The dangers they faced in the wilderness are far from over, but they've taken a crucial step towards saving the Empire. As they walk, Marcus can't help but think about the challenges that still lie ahead, not just the blight, but the growing threat from Vrax and his allies. But for now, he focuses on the task at hand, knowing that every step brings them closer to a solution. Back at the palace, the chefs and citizens await their return, their hope hanging by a thread. And as Marcus and Lyra emerge from the wilderness, their packs filled with the precious silver-veined plants, a spark of optimism begins to spread. The road ahead is uncertain, but for the first time in a long while, the Zorathian Empire has a fighting chance. And at the heart of it all is Marcus Hale, the human chef who dared to venture into the unknown for the sake of a people not his own. As the twin moons dip below the horizon, Marcus and Lyra press forward, their journey taking them deeper into the heart of the wilderness. The air grows thicker, the terrain more unforgiving, and the sense of danger more palpable with every step. The silver-veined plants they've collected are safely tucked away, but the real challenge lies in getting them back to the palace alive. The wilderness is no longer just a backdrop, it's an active adversary, testing their resolve at every turn. The first sign of trouble comes in the form of a low, guttural growl that reverberates through the dense underbrush. Marcus and Lyra exchange a glance, their instincts screaming at them to move. Before they can react, a pack of snarling, wolf-like creatures emerges from the shadows, their glowing eyes locked on the intruders. These aren't ordinary predators, they're creatures evolved to thrive in this hostile environment, and they're not about to let Marcus and Lyra pass without a fight. With no time to think, Marcus grabs a nearby branch, using it as a makeshift weapon to fend off the creatures. Lyra, ever resourceful, pulls a small device from her pack and activates it, emitting a high-pitched frequency that disorients the animals. The creatures retreat, but not without a final, menacing snarl. Marcus and Lyra don't wait to see if they'll return. They push forward, their pace quickening as the adrenaline courses through their veins. Just when they think they've outrun the immediate danger, the ground beneath them begins to shift. The terrain here is unstable, riddled with hidden sinkholes and jagged rock formations. One wrong step could mean disaster. Lyra takes the lead, her knowledge of the wilderness guiding them through the treacherous path. Marcus follows closely, his trust in her growing with every obstacle they overcome. But the wilderness isn't their only enemy. As they navigate a narrow ridge, the sound of distant footsteps reaches their ears. Marcus freezes, his hand instinctively reaching for Lyra's arm. "We're not alone," he whispers, his voice barely audible. Peering through the dense foliage, they spot a group of armed figures moving in their direction, Vrax's soldiers. The general's determination to stop Marcus has reached new heights, and his soldiers are under strict orders to ensure the human chef never makes it back to the palace. Marcus and Lyra crouch low, their hearts pounding as they weigh their options. Fighting isn't an option. They're outnumbered and outgunned, their only chance is to outsmart them. With a silent nod, they slip into the shadows, using the terrain to their advantage. The soldiers pass by, unaware of their presence, but Marcus knows it's only a matter of time before they're discovered. The tension builds as Marcus and Lyra move through the wilderness, their every step calculated to avoid detection. They're forced to take a longer, more dangerous route, but it's their only hope of evading Vrax's forces. The journey becomes a test of endurance and ingenuity, with Marcus relying on his quick thinking, and Lyra's scientific expertise to navigate the challenges ahead. At one point, they find themselves trapped between a sheer cliff and a fast-moving river. The soldiers are closing in, and their options are dwindling. Marcus spots a narrow ledge along the cliff face, a risky path, but their only way out. With Lyra's guidance, they inch their way across, their bodies pressed against the rock as the river roars below. One misstep could send them plummeting into the icy waters, but they have no choice. By the time they reach the other side, the soldiers are nowhere to be seen. Marcus and Lyra collapse onto the ground, their bodies trembling with exhaustion. But there's no time to rest, they're still far from safety, and the stakes have never been higher. As they push themselves to their feet, Marcus looks at Lyra, his expression a mix of determination and gratitude. "We're not done yet," he says, his voice steady despite the fatigue. The wilderness has tested them in ways they never imagined, but Marcus and Lyra have proven they're more than capable of rising to the challenge. With the silver-veined plants in hand and the palace within reach, they know they're one step closer to saving the Empire. But as they continue their journey, the shadow of Vrax looms larger than ever, a reminder that the greatest threats often come from within. As the palace gates loom into view, Marcus and Lyra finally allow themselves a moment of relief. The journey back had been grueling, but the silver-veined plants they carried were a beacon of hope for the starving empire. Yet, as they step into the grand courtyard, the atmosphere shifts. The air is heavy with tension, and the once welcoming faces of the Zorathian guards now carry a cold, accusatory edge. Before Marcus can even catch his breath, General Vrax strides forward, his expression a mask of barely contained fury. Sees them, Vrax barks, his voice cutting through the silence like a blade. Guards immediately surround Marcus and Lyra, their weapons drawn. Marcus instinctively steps in front of Lyra, shielding her as best he can. "What is the meaning of this?" he demands, his voice steady despite the rising panic. Vrax sneers, his eyes narrowing. "You dare ask, while our people starve, you've been hoarding food for yourself, human. These plants you've brought back, how do we know they're not for your own gain? How do we know you're not working against us?" The accusations hang in the air, heavy and suffocating. Marcus feels the weight of every eye in the courtyard on him, the suspicion and fear palpable. Lyra steps forward, her voice firm. "This is absurd. Marcus has risked his life to save your people. These plants are the key to ending the famine. If you just let us explain." "Silence," Vrax interrupts, his tone leaving no room for argument. "Your loyalty to this outsider has blinded you, Lyra. The Emperor will decide his fate." With a sharp gesture, the guards drag Marcus away, leaving Lyra to watch helplessly as the man who had become her closest ally is taken to face trial. The throne room is a stark contrast to the chaos outside. Emperor Zorath sits on his throne, his once imposing figure now diminished by hunger and exhaustion. His eyes, however, still burn with the intensity of a leader desperate to save his people. As Marcus is brought before him, the Emperor's gaze is unreadable, a mixture of hope and suspicion. "Marcus Hale," the Emperor begins, his voice echoing through the chamber. "You stand accused of treason. General Vrax claims you've been hoarding food while our people suffer. What do you have to say for yourself?" Marcus takes a deep breath, his mind racing. He knows this is more than just a trial. It's a test of trust, not just in him, but in the fragile alliance between humans and Zorathians. "Your Majesty," he says, his voice calm but resolute, "I've done nothing but work to save your people. These plants are the solution to the famine. If you'll allow me, I can prove it." Vrax steps forward, his voice dripping with disdain. "Words are cheap, human. Actions speak louder, and your actions have only brought more suffering." The Emperor's gaze flickers between Marcus and Vrax, torn between loyalty to his general and the desperate hope that Marcus might be the key to salvation. The weight of his decision is evident in the lines etched across his face. Finally, he raises a hand, silencing the room. "Marcus Hale, you will stand trial. The fate of the Empire hangs in the balance, and I cannot afford to take chances. If you are innocent, the truth will come to light, but if you are guilty..." He doesn't finish the sentence, but the implication is clear. As Marcus is led away, Lyra watches from the shadows, her heart heavy with fear and determination. She knows the trial is more than just a legal proceeding. It's a battle for the soul of the Empire. And as the doors to the courtroom close, the real fight begins. As the trial begins, the courtroom is filled with a tense silence, every eye fixed on Marcus. The weight of the Empire's future hangs in the air, and the stakes could not be higher. Marcus, standing tall despite the accusations, turns to Emperor Zorath with a calm but determined expression. "Your Majesty," he begins, "I understand your doubts. But let me prove my loyalty and the value of these plants not with words, but with action. Allow me to prepare a meal for the court, using the very crops we've brought back." Let the food speak for itself. The Emperor hesitates, his gaze flickering to Vrax, who stands with arms crossed, his skepticism evident, but curiosity wins out. With a nod, the Emperor grants Marcus permission. The courtroom murmurs in surprise as Marcus is escorted to the palace kitchens, where he begins his work. The Zorathian chefs watch in awe as Marcus transforms the unfamiliar ingredients into something extraordinary. His hands move with precision, blending the silver-veined plants with spices and textures unique to their world. The air soon fills with an intoxicating aroma, one that even the most hardened skeptics cannot ignore. When the feast is ready, the court gathers around a grand table, their expressions a mix of curiosity and doubt. Marcus presents the dishes with quiet confidence, each plate a masterpiece of flavor and artistry. The first bite is met with stunned silence, followed by gasps of astonishment. The flavors are unlike anything the Zorathians have ever tasted, rich, vibrant, and bursting with life. Even Vrax, reluctantly taking a bite, finds himself unable to deny the meal's brilliance. Emperor Zorath, savoring the dish, looks at Marcus with newfound respect. This is more than food," he says, his voice filled with emotion. "This is hope. A future for my people." The room erupts in murmurs of agreement, the tension dissolving into a shared sense of wonder. Marcus steps forward, his voice steady. "Your Majesty, these crops can feed your empire. They can end the famine, but only if we work together." The Emperor rises, his decision clear. "Marcus Hale, you have proven yourself not only innocent but indispensable. The charges against you are dismissed. From this moment forward, you will have my full support and the resources of the Empire to continue your work." Vrax, though visibly displeased, can do nothing but bow to the Emperor's decree. As the court disperses, Marcus feels a wave of relief, but he knows the real work is just beginning. The feast has won over the Emperor and the court, but the battle to save the Empire is far from over. With renewed determination, Marcus turns to Lyra, who smiles with pride. Together, they prepare to take the next step in their mission, knowing that the seeds of hope they've planted today will soon bear fruit for the entire Zorathian Empire. With the Emperor's blessing and the court's newfound trust, Marcus and Lyra throw themselves into the monumental task of cultivating the rare crops. Day after day, they work side by side, nurturing the silver-veined plants that hold the key to the Empire's survival. The fields begin to flourish, and for a moment, it seems as though the worst of the famine is behind them. But just as hope begins to take root, a new threat emerges. The blight, the very same disease that had devastated the Empire's primary food source, begins to creep into their experimental fields. At first, it's just a few discolored leaves, but soon entire rows of crops are withering away. Marcus stares at the dying plants, his heart sinking. This can't be happening, he mutters, running a hand through his hair. Lyra, ever the scientist, kneels to examine the affected plants, her expression grim. "The blight is adapting," she says. "It's spreading faster than we anticipated." Marcus paces the field, his mind racing. "We can't let this destroy everything we've built. There has to be a way to stop it." Lyra looks up, her eyes narrowing in thought. What if we don't fight the blight directly? What if we find something that can control it naturally? Marcus stops in his tracks, a spark of realization lighting up his face. "A predator," he says. "Something that feeds on the blight." Lyra nods, pulling up a holographic map of the planet. "There's a species native to the volcanic regions, the starfire beetle. They're known to consume toxic fungi and blights. If we can find them, they might be our best chance." Marcus studies the map, the volcanic plains glowing ominously. "It's dangerous territory," he says, "but if it means saving the Empire, we don't have a choice." The decision made, Marcus and Lyra prepare for the journey ahead. They gather supplies, including protective gear to withstand the extreme heat and toxic gases of the volcanic regions. As they set out, the weight of their mission hangs heavy in the air. The fate of the Zorathian Empire rests on their ability to find these elusive beetles and bring them back alive. The journey is grueling, the terrain growing harsher with every step. The air grows thick with ash, and the ground beneath their feet cracks with heat. But Marcus and Lyra press on, driven by the knowledge that failure is not an option. As they near the heart of the volcanic plains, the landscape becomes almost otherworldly, with rivers of molten lava cutting through the blackened earth. Finally, they spot them tiny, iridescent beetles darting across the scorched rocks, their shells glowing faintly in the dim light. Marcus crouches down, careful not to startle them. "There they are," he whispers, "the starfire beetles." Lyra carefully collects a few specimens, her hands steady despite the oppressive heat. "If these can eat the blight," she says, "we might just have a chance." But as they prepare to leave, a low rumble echoes through the plains. Marcus and Lyra exchange a worried glance. They're not alone. The sound grows louder, and soon they realize they're being followed not by the elements, but by Vrax's soldiers, determined to stop them at any cost. With the beetles in hand and danger closing in, Marcus and Lyra know they must act quickly. The race to save the Empire has just become a fight for their own survival. As the volcanic plains stretch endlessly before them, Marcus and Lyra push forward, their determination unwavering despite the oppressive heat and the acrid stench of sulfur filling the air. Every step feels like a battle against the elements, the ground beneath their boots cracking and hissing, as if warning them to turn back. But turning back isn't an option, not when the fate of an entire empire hangs in the balance. The journey grows more treacherous as they venture deeper into the heart of the volcanic region. Rivers of molten lava snake across the blackened landscape, their glow casting an eerie light on the jagged rocks. The air is thick with ash, making it harder to breathe, and the heat is relentless, searing through their protective gear. Marcus wipes the sweat from his brow, his eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of the starfire beetles. "We're close," he says, his voice barely audible over the rumble of the earth. "They have to be here." Lyra adjusts her goggles, her gaze fixed on the holographic map in her hand. "According to the readings, this is the area where they were last spotted, but we need to move quickly. The longer we're out here, the greater the risk." Just as she finishes speaking, a faint glimmer catches Marcus's eye. He squints through the haze, his heart leaping as he spots a cluster of tiny, iridescent beetles darting across the scorched rocks. Their shells shimmer faintly, reflecting the fiery glow of the lava. "There," he exclaims, pointing toward the beetles, the starfire beetles. Lyra rushes to his side, her hands steady as she carefully collects a few of the creatures. "If these can consume the blight," she says, her voice tinged with hope, "we might finally have a way to save the crops," but their moment of triumph is short-lived. A low rumble echoes through the plains, growing louder with each passing second. Marcus and Lyra exchange a tense glance, their instincts screaming that danger is near. Before they can react, a group of Vrax's soldiers emerges from the ash-filled haze, their weapons drawn and their intentions clear. "You didn't think it would be that easy, did you?" One of the soldiers sneers, stepping closer. General Vrax sends his regards. Marcus tightens his grip on the container holding the beetles, his mind racing. They're outnumbered and outgunned, but giving up isn't an option. "Lyra," he whispers, "get ready to run." With a sudden burst of energy, Marcus hurls a handful of volcanic rocks toward the soldiers, creating a distraction. In the chaos, he and Lyra sprint toward a narrow crevice in the rocks, their only chance of escape. The soldiers give chase, their shouts echoing through the plains, but Marcus and Lyra are fueled by desperation and determination. As they weave through the treacherous terrain, Marcus clutches the container tightly, knowing that the beetles inside represent the Empire's last hope. The ground shakes beneath them, and the air grows hotter, but they press on, driven by the knowledge that failure is not an option. Finally, they reach the edge of the volcanic plains, where their ship awaits. With a final burst of speed, they leap inside, the engines roaring to life as they lift off just moments before the soldiers can catch up. Marcus collapses into his seat, his chest heaving, but a small smile crosses his face. "We did it," he says, holding up the container. "We've got the beetles." Lyra nods, her expression a mix of relief and exhaustion. "Now we just have to get them back to the palace and hope they can do what we need them to." As the ship speeds away from the volcanic plains, Marcus gazes out at the fiery landscape below, the weight of their mission still heavy on his shoulders. The battle isn't over yet, but for the first time in what feels like forever, he allows himself a glimmer of hope. The starfire beetles are in their hands, and with them, the chance to save an empire. But as the ship disappears into the horizon, one thing is clear: the fight for survival is far from finished. As the ship touches down at the palace, Marcus and Lyra waste no time. The weight of their mission presses on them, but the sight of the starfire beetles in their container fuels their determination. The palace gardens, once vibrant and teeming with life, now lie barren and blighted, a grim reminder of the Empire's plight. Marcus steps into the fields, the container in hand, and carefully releases the beetles onto the infected crops. The beetles scatter, their iridescent shells glinting in the sunlight as they begin their work. At first, nothing seems to happen, and Marcus feels a pang of doubt. But then, slowly, the blight begins to recede. The beetles devour the dark, creeping fungus, their tiny bodies moving with purpose. The once sickly plants start to regain their color, their leaves unfurling as if breathing new life. Marcus watches in awe, a smile spreading across his face. "It's working," he says, his voice filled with relief. "They're healing the crops." Lyra kneels beside him, her eyes wide with wonder. "This could be the breakthrough we've been waiting for," she says. "If the beetles can keep this up, the Empire might have a chance." But their moment of hope is shattered by the sound of alarms blaring across the palace grounds. Marcus and Lyra exchange a worried glance as the distant roar of engines fills the air. "What's happening?" Marcus asks, his heart racing. Before Lyra can answer, a guard rushes toward them, his face pale with fear. "It's General Vrax," he gasps. "He's launched an attack on the palace. His forces are closing in." Marcus's stomach drops. He knew Vrax wouldn't give up without a fight, but he hadn't expected an assault of this magnitude. The palace, already weakened by the famine, is ill-prepared to defend itself. "We need to get to the Emperor," Marcus says, his voice steady despite the chaos. "If Vrax takes control, everything we've worked for will be lost." As they sprint toward the palace, the sound of explosions echoes in the distance. Smoke rises on the horizon, and the air is thick with tension. Marcus's mind races as he tries to formulate a plan. The beetles are their best hope, but they need time to do their work, time they might not have if Vrax succeeds. Inside the palace, the Emperor stands at the head of the war room, his expression grim. "Vrax has betrayed us," he says, his voice heavy with anger and sorrow. He seeks to seize power, even if it means destroying everything we've built. Marcus steps forward, his resolve hardening. "We can't let him win," he says. "The beetles are working, but we need to hold the palace long enough for the crops to recover. If we can do that, we might still have a chance." The Emperor nods, his gaze steady. "Then we fight," he says, "for the Empire, for our people, and for the future." As the palace prepares for battle, Marcus feels the weight of the moment settle on his shoulders. The Starfire beetles are a beacon of hope, but the fight ahead is far from over. With Vrax's forces closing in, Marcus knows that the next few hours will determine the fate of the Zorathian Empire, and the legacy of the human chef who dared to save it. As the chaos unfolds, Marcus finds himself in the heart of the palace kitchens, a place he once thought of as his sanctuary. Now, it's a battlefield. The clatter of pots and pans is drowned out by the roar of Vrax's soldiers storming through the doors. Marcus grabs a heavy cast iron skillet, its familiar weight comforting in his hands. "If they want a fight," he mutters, "they'll get one." Lyra is at his side, her scientific tools repurposed as makeshift weapons. She wields a sharpened spatula like a blade, her eyes fierce with determination. The loyal palace guards form a line behind them, their weapons drawn but their numbers thin. Marcus knows they're outmatched, but he also knows the kitchens better than anyone. This is his domain, and he's not about to let Vrax take it. The first wave of attackers crashes into the kitchen, their weapons gleaming in the dim light. Marcus swings the skillet with precision, the metallic clang echoing as it connects with an enemy's helmet. Lyra darts forward, her spatula finding its mark in the gaps of their armor. The guards hold the line, their training evident as they fend off the assault, but the sheer number of Vrax's forces begins to overwhelm them. Marcus's mind races. He scans the room, his eyes landing on a stack of spice canisters. An idea sparks. "Lyra," he shouts over the din, "grab those canisters, the ones with the red labels." She doesn't hesitate, tossing them to him one by one. Marcus rips off the lids, revealing the fine, potent powder inside. He takes a deep breath, then hurls the canisters into the air, the powder exploding into a cloud of fiery spice. The effect is immediate. The attackers cough and stagger, their eyes watering as the spice fills the air. Marcus seizes the moment, leading a countercharge with his skillet raised high. The guards follow, their renewed vigor turning the tide. Vrax's soldiers, disoriented and blinded, retreat in confusion, but the victory is short-lived. More soldiers pour into the kitchen, their numbers seemingly endless. Marcus grits his teeth, his arms aching from the effort. He knows they can't hold out forever. "We need to buy more time," he says to Lyra, his voice strained. "The beetles are still working. If we can just hold them off a little longer." Lyra nods, her face streaked with sweat and soot. "Then we hold," she says simply. Together they rally the guards, forming a tight defensive circle. Marcus uses every tool at his disposal: knives, ladles, even a rolling pin, to keep the attackers at bay. The kitchen becomes a whirlwind of motion, each moment a desperate struggle for survival. As the battle rages on, Marcus's ingenuity shines. He rigs a makeshift flamethrower using a pressurized canister and a blowtorch, sending a wall of fire toward the advancing soldiers. The guards cheer, their spirits lifted by his quick thinking, but Marcus knows this is only a temporary solution. The real fight, the one for the Empire's future, is still being waged in the fields where the starfire beetles continue their vital work. With every swing of his skillet, every clever trick he pulls, Marcus buys precious seconds for the beetles to do their job. The kitchen, once a place of creation and nourishment, has become a fortress of defiance. And as the battle reaches its peak, Marcus realizes that this is where he belongs, not just as a chef, but as a defender of hope. The fight is far from over, but for now, they're holding the line. And that's enough. As the chaos in the kitchen begins to subside, Marcus catches sight of General Vrax through the haze of smoke and spice. The general stands at the edge of the fray, his expression a mix of fury and disbelief. Marcus knows this is the moment he's been dreading and preparing for. "Lyra," he says, his voice steady despite the exhaustion weighing on him, "this ends now." With a deep breath, Marcus steps forward, his skillet still gripped tightly in his hand. Vrax sneers, drawing his weapon. "You think you can stop me, human?" He growls, "You're nothing but a cook." Marcus smirks, his mind racing through every trick he's learned in the kitchens. "A cook, maybe," he replies, "but one who knows how to handle heat." Before Vrax can react, Marcus hurls a handful of the fiery spice powder he'd used earlier, sending the general stumbling back, coughing and blinded. Seizing the opportunity, Marcus darts forward, using the skillet to disarm Vrax with a swift, calculated strike. The general's weapon clatters to the floor, but Vrax isn't done yet. He lunges at Marcus, his strength formidable even without his blade. The two grapple, their struggle carrying them toward the edge of the kitchen. Marcus's eyes dart to a nearby pot of boiling liquid, a broth he'd been preparing before the battle began. With a grunt, he shoves Vrax toward it, using the general's momentum against him. Vrax loses his balance, teetering dangerously close to the scalding pot. "Careful," Marcus quips, "that's a family recipe." Vrax snarls, but before he can recover, Marcus delivers a final blow with the skillet, sending the general crashing to the ground. The room falls silent as Vrax lies defeated, his once imposing figure now crumpled and still. Marcus stands over him, breathing heavily but victorious. The Emperor arrives moments later, his guards clearing a path through the remnants of the battle. He takes in the scene, Marcus standing tall, Vrax defeated, and the kitchen in shambles. "Marcus Hale," the Emperor says, his voice filled with awe and gratitude, "you have done what no one else could. You have saved us all." Marcus lowers the skillet, his shoulders sagging with relief. "I just did what I do best," he replies modestly, "cooking and maybe a little improvising." The Emperor steps forward, placing a hand on Marcus's shoulder. "From this day forward, you shall be known as the hero of Zorath. Your name will be remembered for generations, and your place in our empire is assured." As the weight of the moment settles, Marcus glances around the kitchen, now a symbol of both destruction and triumph. He knows the fight isn't entirely over. There's still work to be done to ensure the Empire's future. But for now, he allows himself a small smile. The battle may have been won, but the real victory lies in the hope he's helped restore. With the Emperor's declaration echoing through the palace, Marcus turns to Lyra, who stands nearby, her face alight with pride. Together, they've faced the impossible and emerged stronger. And as the first rays of dawn break through the palace windows, Marcus realizes that this is just the beginning of a new chapter, one where his culinary skills and courage will continue to shape the destiny of an empire. As the dust settles and the empire begins to heal, Marcus finds himself standing in the heart of the palace gardens, now teeming with life. The once barren fields are alive with vibrant crops, their leaves glistening under the twin suns of Zorath. It's a sight that fills him with pride, but Marcus knows his work is far from over. With the blight defeated and the crops thriving, Marcus turns his attention to the next challenge and ensuring the Zorathians can sustain themselves long after he's gone. He gathers the Empire's farmers, chefs, and scientists in the Grand Hall, their faces eager and hopeful. This isn't just about growing food. Marcus begins, his voice carrying the weight of experience. It's about understanding the land, respecting its rhythms, and creating a system that will last for generations. He starts with the basics, teaching them how to rotate crops to keep the soil healthy and how to compost waste to enrich the earth. The Zorathians watch in awe as Marcus demonstrates techniques that seem almost magical in their simplicity. It's not magic, he says with a smile, it's just good farming. Next, Marcus moves to the kitchens, where he introduces the Zorathians to the art of cooking with their new crops. He shows them how to blend flavors, balance textures, and create dishes that are not only nourishing but also deeply satisfying. Food isn't just fuel, he explains as he stirs a pot of fragrant stew. It's a way to bring people together, to celebrate life, and to honor the land that provides for us. The lessons spread quickly, from the palace kitchens to the farthest reaches of the empire. Farmers adopt Marcus's methods, and chefs experiment with his recipes, creating dishes that become staples of Zorathian cuisine. The empire begins to rebuild, its people no longer haunted by the specter of famine. Markets buzz with activity, and the aroma of fresh bread and roasted vegetables fills the air. But Marcus's influence doesn't stop at the borders of Zorath. News of his success travels to neighboring star systems, where other civilizations struggling with their own food crises take notice. Delegations arrive, eager to learn from the human chef who saved an empire. Marcus welcomes them with open arms, sharing his knowledge and inspiring hope wherever he goes. As the days turn into weeks, Marcus reflects on the journey that brought him here. From a simple chef on Earth to a hero of an alien empire, his life has changed in ways he could never have imagined. Yet amidst the accolades and the growing legend, Marcus remains grounded. "I didn't do this alone," he tells Lyra one evening as they watch the sun set over the palace gardens. "This was a team effort, and it's just the beginning." With the empire thriving and his teachings spreading across the stars, Marcus knows his time on Zorath is drawing to a close. But as he looks out over the flourishing fields and bustling kitchens, he feels a deep sense of fulfillment. He's not just a chef anymore. He's a teacher, a leader, and a symbol of hope. And as the first stars twinkle in the night sky, Marcus can't help but smile, knowing that his legacy will endure long after he's gone. As the empire flourishes and Marcus's teachings take root across Zorath, a quiet realization begins to settle in his heart. One evening, as he stands in the palace gardens, the emperor approaches him with an offer that carries both honor and weight. "Marcus," the emperor begins, his voice steady but filled with gratitude, "you have given us more than food. You have given us hope, unity, and a future. We would be honored if you stayed as our head chef, guiding us for generations to come." The offer is generous, and Marcus feels a deep sense of pride in what he's accomplished. Yet, as he looks out over the thriving fields and bustling kitchens, a familiar longing stirs within him. Earth, home, the thought of his small kitchen, the familiar streets, and the faces of those he left behind tugs at him. "Your Majesty," Marcus replies, his voice soft but resolute, "I am deeply honored, but my heart belongs to Earth. It's time for me to return." The Emperor, though saddened, understands. "You have given us everything, Marcus. It is only right that we give you this." With a wave of his hand, he orders preparations for Marcus's safe passage home. But before Marcus departs, the Emperor insists on one final gesture of gratitude, a grand feast, a celebration of Marcus's legacy and the unity he has brought to the Empire. The palace buzzes with activity as chefs, farmers, and citizens come together to prepare the feast. Marcus takes the lead, crafting a menu that blends the flavors of Earth with the unique ingredients of Zorath. The result is a culinary masterpiece, a symbol of the bond between their worlds. The grand hall fills with dignitaries, citizens, and friends, all gathered to honor the human chef who saved an empire. As the feast begins, Marcus stands before the crowd, his heart full. "This meal," he says, raising a glass, "is more than food. It's a celebration of what we've achieved together. It's a reminder that no matter how far apart we are, we can always find common ground through kindness, through understanding, and through the simple act of sharing a meal." The room erupts in applause, and Marcus feels a swell of emotion. He looks around at the faces of those he's come to care for: Lyra, the Emperor, the farmers, the chefs, and knows that while he may be leaving, a part of him will always remain on Zorath. As the night unfolds, laughter and music fill the air, a testament to the unity Marcus has inspired. When the feast ends and the stars shine brightly overhead, Marcus prepares for his journey home. The Emperor presents him with a final gift, a medallion bearing the symbol of the Zorathian Empire, a token of their eternal gratitude. "Wherever you go," the Emperor says, "know that you will always have a home here." With a final farewell, Marcus boards the ship that will carry him back to Earth. As the engines hum to life and the palace grows smaller in the distance, he reflects on the incredible journey that brought him here. He's not just a chef anymore, he's a bridge between worlds, a symbol of hope, and a reminder that even the smallest act of kindness can change the course of history. And as the stars streak past the ship's windows, Marcus smiles, knowing that his story is far from over. As the grand feast unfolds, Marcus steps into the heart of the palace kitchens, where the air hums with anticipation. He moves with purpose, his hands deftly weaving together the flavors of Earth and Zorath. On one counter, vibrant Zorathian herbs glisten under the light, their earthy aroma mingling with the sharp tang of spices from his home planet. Marcus smiles as he works, each dish a testament to the journey that brought him here. The fusion of cuisines is more than a meal, it's a symbol of unity, a bridge between two worlds that once seemed impossibly distant. The grand hall fills with dignitaries from across the galaxy, their attire a dazzling array of colors and textures. Representatives from neighboring star systems, curious traders, and even former rivals of the Zorathian Empire have come to witness this historic event. The room buzzes with conversation, but as the first dishes are carried out, a hush falls over the crowd. Plates adorned with intricate designs are placed before the guests, each bite a harmonious blend of Earth's comfort and Zorath's exotic flavors. The reactions are immediate: eyes widen, smiles spread, and murmurs of approval ripple through the hall. Marcus watches from the sidelines, his heart swelling with pride. He sees Lyra, her face lit with joy as she savors a dish inspired by her favorite Zorathian delicacy. The Emperor, seated at the head of the table, raises his glass in a silent toast, his gratitude evident in his gaze. Even the most skeptical dignitaries, those who once doubted the human chef's abilities, are won over by the artistry and depth of the meal. It's a moment of triumph, not just for Marcus, but for the unity he has fostered. As the feast progresses, Marcus takes a moment to address the gathering. This meal, he begins, his voice steady and warm, is more than a celebration of flavors. It's a reminder that no matter how different we may seem, we can always find common ground. Through food, through kindness, and through understanding, we've built something extraordinary together. The room erupts in applause, the sound echoing through the grand hall like a symphony of hope. The evening continues with music and laughter, the barriers of language and culture dissolving in the shared joy of the moment. Marcus moves among the guests, exchanging stories and laughter, his presence a quiet reminder of the impact one person can have. The feast becomes more than a meal, it's a turning point, a moment that solidifies Marcus's legacy as the chef who not only saved an empire but brought worlds together. As the night draws to a close, Marcus stands at the center of the hall, surrounded by the faces of those he's come to call friends. The Emperor rises once more, his voice carrying the weight of gratitude and respect. Marcus Hale, he declares, "You have shown us that the greatest power lies not in strength or wealth, but in the ability to unite. Tonight, we honor you, not just as a chef, but as a beacon of hope for all of us." The room erupts in cheers, and Marcus feels a deep sense of fulfillment. The feast may be ending, but its impact will resonate far beyond this night. As the stars twinkle above, Marcus knows that his journey has left an indelible mark on the galaxy, a legacy of unity, hope, and the transformative power of a single meal. As the final echoes of the feast fade into the night, Marcus finds himself standing at the edge of the palace gardens, the cool breeze carrying the faint scent of Zorathian blooms. Lyra approaches, her expression a mix of pride and sadness. "You've done something no one else could," she says, her voice soft but filled with admiration. "You've given us more than food, you've given us hope." Marcus smiles, his heart heavy with the weight of the moment. "This isn't goodbye," he assures her. "I'll come back, I promise." Lyra nods, her eyes glistening with unshed tears, and they share a quiet embrace, a silent acknowledgement of the bond they've forged. The Emperor joins them, his presence commanding yet softened by gratitude. Marcus Hale, he begins, his voice steady but warm, "You have not only saved our empire but reshaped its future. Your name will be remembered for generations to come." Marcus bows his head humbly, the weight of the Emperor's words settling on his shoulders. "It was an honor," he replies, his voice thick with emotion. "I'll carry this place with me, always." The Emperor places a hand on Marcus's shoulder, a gesture of respect and farewell, before stepping back to allow him his final moments on Zorathian soil. As Marcus boards the ship that will carry him back to Earth, he pauses at the threshold, taking one last look at the world that has become a second home. The towering spires of the palace gleam under the starlight, a testament to the resilience and unity he helped foster. He steps inside, the doors closing behind him with a soft hiss. The ship hums to life, and Marcus settles into his seat, his mind awash with memories of the desperate faces he first encountered, the triumphs and challenges, the friendships that grew from adversity. As the ship ascends, breaking through the atmosphere, Marcus gazes out the window, watching the planet shrink into the vastness of space. He reflects on the journey that brought him here, from the moment he was abducted to the grand feast that marked the culmination of his efforts. He thinks of Lyra, her unwavering support and sharp mind, and the Emperor, whose trust and belief in him never wavered. He thinks of the countless lives he touched, the hope he reignited, and the legacy he leaves behind. The stars blur past as the ship hurtles toward Earth, but Marcus's thoughts remain anchored in the galaxy he's come to love. He knows his work is far from over. The lessons he learned, the bonds he formed, and the unity he helped create will stay with him, guiding his steps as he returns to his own world. And though he's leaving Zorath behind, he carries its spirit with him, a reminder that even in the vastness of the universe, connection and compassion can bridge any divide. As the ship enters Earth's orbit, Marcus feels a surge of anticipation. He's returning not just as a chef, but as a man forever changed by his journey. The stars may have brought him to Zorath, but it's the people, the friendships, and the shared moments of triumph that will stay with him always. And as he looks ahead to the life waiting for him on Earth, Marcus knows one thing for certain: he'll return to Zorath one day, not as a stranger, but as a friend. As the ship touches down on Earth, Marcus steps out into the familiar air of his home planet, a world that now feels both comforting and strangely small compared to the vastness of the galaxy he's just left behind. The bustling streets, the hum of human life, the scent of Earth's soil, it's all so familiar, yet he's no longer the same man who left. With a renewed sense of purpose, Marcus sets out to share the story of Zorath, not just through words, but through the universal language of food. In the heart of the city, Marcus opens a restaurant unlike any other. Its walls are adorned with Zorathian art, its menu a fusion of Earth's flavors and the exotic ingredients he discovered light years away. The first dish he serves is a recreation of the meal that won over Emperor Zorath, a simple yet profound blend of textures and spices that tells a story of survival, hope, and unity. Patrons flock to the restaurant, drawn not just by the novelty of alien cuisine, but by the tale of a chef who fed an empire. As the months pass, Marcus's restaurant becomes more than just a place to eat. It becomes a hub of conversation, a space where people gather to hear his story and reflect on the power of connection. He shares the lessons he learned on Zorath, how a single act of kindness can ripple across the stars, how food can bridge cultures, and how even in the face of despair, hope can flourish. His tale inspires not just curiosity, but a deeper understanding of what it means to be part of something greater. News of Marcus's journey spreads far and wide, reaching the ears of scientists, diplomats, and dreamers alike. His story sparks a new era of interstellar cooperation, as Earth begins to forge alliances with distant worlds, united by the belief that no challenge is too great when faced together. Marcus's restaurant becomes a symbol of this newfound unity, a place where the boundaries between worlds blur and the possibilities of the universe feel within reach. As Marcus stands in his kitchen, preparing another meal, he can't help but smile. He thinks of Lyra, the Emperor, and the countless Zorathians who welcomed him as one of their own. He thinks of the friendships he forged, the lives he touched, and the legacy he helped create. And though he's back on Earth, he knows his journey is far from over. The stars may have brought him to Zorath, but it's the connections he made there that will guide him forward. In the end, Marcus's story is a reminder that even the smallest act of kindness, or a single meal, can change the fate of an empire. It's a testament to the power of compassion, the strength of unity, and the boundless potential of the human spirit. And as he looks out at the bustling restaurant, filled with laughter and conversation, Marcus knows that his adventure has only just begun. The universe is vast, but through food, friendship, and hope, it feels a little smaller, a little closer, and a little brighter. If you enjoyed this story of courage, creativity, and connection, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more tales that inspire and uplift. Until next time, keep exploring, keep dreaming, and remember, every meal is an opportunity to change the world.